So, most likely, if you've been in any sort of self-improvement space at all, you'll see that, everyone is talking about how playing video games is bad and how terrible it is for you, and that it's just like not good for you, and like it's unproductive or whatever they may say, right? But they don't often mention the downside of playing video games that I personally think is a big one, right? So picture this, right? You're playing like Xbox, or I used to play PC, right? I would sit there in my chair and I would just be there for like 8 hours, right? Like, especially like after school or on a weekend, 8 hours or more, right? Like just sitting there prone, or like just like, shoulders like forward and hunched, right? Like not in a good posture at all, with like my spine kind of out of alignment, or like maybe I'm like kind of slouched over, whatever, right? Those are obvious, like, posture stuff that most people know to take care of, right? Most people know to get rid of, just like, making sure that you're upright and all that, right? That's great. Fine. No problem. But most people don't know is that sitting is a really, really, really big problem that gamers have. You have gamer hips, which is what I'd like to call it. It's straight up just gamer hips. Like, you're sitting there and you're winding up your hip flexors because they're forced to be in a shortened position whenever you're in a seated position. Like, we're not really meant to like sit for hours and hours on end. Laying down, perfectly fine. Squatting, a perfect alternative used by a lot of different like ethnic groups around the world, right? Squatting is perfect. Laying down is perfect. Even sitting just for a couple minutes on a chair that causes you to, that doesn't have like a backrest, that causes you to engage your core more, right? That's all good. But when you're sitting there in your comfy leather chair and, you've been sitting there for hours, for days, for years, you have the problems that I'm having now, which is in the gym, my hips hurt a lot, right? My hamstrings are super tight. My hip flexors are super tight. This is something I never even thought I'd have a problem with, right? I mean, obviously playing video games, I had a great time. If I had just had a standing desk, maybe I wouldn't have these issues, right? Although you can take that to even just being in school. Being in school, sitting down, for hours on end, college, whatever. Just sitting for a long time hurts everyone, especially gamers. Like, most people don't, I'm not sure if they'll have to deal with the same issues that I have with my hips, but it's become a problem where like I've got just gummed up connective tissue. Every time I rotate my hips, it pops. It's fucking terrible, man. So yeah, just a quick little kind of thought on video games and why like a certain reason. I mean, if you're gonna play video games, like, use the standing desk, man. Like, if you're just gonna if you're just gonna veg out one day, like, fuck it, man, I'll just, I'm playing with the boys this one weekend or whatever, however you do it. Yeah, just use a standing desk. Just stand. Just don't sit. Like, if you can avoid it, don't sit. It's just not good for you. Peace.